Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Scope. And now, here are your hosts, Jared, Adam, and Shane.
Hey everybody, episode 304 of your Scope program. Jared, Adam, and Shane, that's me in the house. Thank you. The crowd is it's a hot crowd tonight. They've got a lot to say. They want to be interactive, even though we're recording from our respective basements. No in-person recording yet, everyone. Sad. Well, guess what?
I mean, we could. You and I could do it.
Yeah.
I'm not set up yet for that. So
we'll get there eventually. One step at a time. Let's record more than one show every 6 months, and then we'll talk turkey.
It's just that, so the basement space has gotten sort of repurposed during COVID times for other activities, and so the table that we normally would sit at is sort of like back behind a screen right now. There's like a green screen in front of it, and so I have to figure out the logistics of being able to move that in and out on on demand, and I just haven't done that yet.
I would love to sit in front of a green screen for our Scope recording. Imagine the fun stuff we could do with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that can be done. I have a wraparound green screen down here now. So.
Oh, well, that's something that's very exciting. I could finally get into the old weather person game that I've been dying to since I was the age of 7. Cold fronts coming in.
Perfect.
Love it. Speaking of pandemic, one thing that will not be stopped by this pesky pandemic is one of our loves. The three of us love this. I'm talking about football. Or do we love it, I guess? Not my best transition, but hey, it's late. I'm not rocking the hair game the two of you are rocking, so I do what I can. Football season, it starts, everybody. We've got games galore. Both of our squads, we're playing this season as far as I know, correct? Minnesota Vikings, Washington football team.
They're just going to roll with football team, huh?
Well, so
this year they say that they've narrowed it down to four.
Let me set this up, Adam, because I've got it listed right here. Your team, I don't think, is the least vaccinated team in football, like the Vikings are, which we can get to that in a second.
It was them. It was them. And now it's the Vikings.
The Vikings are still number one least vaccinated, huh?
Yeah, it was Washington football team. They've been overtaken by
well, that's fantastic. So let's talk about your football team. I've got a list of names that the Washington football team released. According to this list, there are 3 finalists on this list that will be, and the actual name will be revealed in early 2022. I'll read the list. You give me your take on what you think it should be. So we've got the Washington Armada, Washington Presidents, Washington Brigade, Washington Red Hogs, Washington Commanders, Washington Red Wolves, Washington Defenders, and then stick with Washington football team.
Yeah.
So has this list been pared down since?
So that list, it was like a list of that was like in a survey.
Okay.
The team has not actually said that list is, what they are down to.
Oh, but, okay. That's how I read the story.
That is the general consensus. It might be, and they're just doing whatever PR work. But yes, that is the list that people have been going with because there was a survey sent to like ticket holders or I don't know, advertiser partner or something. And that's what people are assuming. So from that list, the only 2 I like, I'm going to just say real quickly, Defenders is the name of a fake team in a sci-fi, in like Starship Troopers, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was the name of one of the teams. Yeah.
A really bad Marvel team, by the way, too. The Defenders. How dumb is that?
Yeah, that's a lot of those are bad.
Jared, give a boo. Do we have a boo?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Let me get there.
Let's get some sounds on this.
We've got that.
Okay.
Next, Adam.
To be clear,
okay,
almost all sports teams' names are bad and nonsensical. So none of this matters. Okay. The Seahawks, the Browns, the Texans. I mean, they're stupid. So I don't think it doesn't matter.
It is tough when you're trying to in modern times come up with a name that sort of feels like it still fits into these kind of historical names that have lost all real meaning.
It needs to sound classic in a way, but Defenders is not it.
No.
Okay, so you tell me with some of these names your most liked choice if you had to pick something, because I've got one that I like. So
yeah, the only two that I think are even remotely reasonable are Red Hawks and Washington Football Team.
Really, you don't like? What do you think, Jared?
I don't like the ones that are like not plural or are just like a collective noun type thing.
Like Armada, you don't like that?
I don't like those because there aren't any teams in the NFL that do that. It's just not a pattern. Other leagues have done that.
Like the Wild.
You have that. You have other leagues have those types of names. The NFL doesn't.
It's got to have an S at the end.
It does, or it needs to be like a plural of whatever that is. Usually that's an S in the English language. But yeah, I don't like any of those. Cross those off the list. I don't like Presidents. I think that's a dumb one.
Yeah.
Defenders is bad. Red Hawks, was that one of the one you like?
I thought it was Red Hogs, or is it Red
Hogs? Or is it Red Hawks? Which one is it, Adam? You're the authority on this.
Oh, I don't know.
Ooh. I'll do a quick
There's
look.
a couple of red ones. I still like the suggestion that a lot of people were lobbying for right away, which was the Red Tails.
Yeah.
To name after the famous African American squadron from World War II. Probably a bridge too far for this team, I would guess, but I like it.
Red Hogs, by the way, I can confirm. Red Hogs.
I don't like Red Hogs.
It doesn't really make any sense.
What was
Red
the
Hogs
other
I
red
would
one?
like.
What's that?
Red Wolves.
Oh, Red Wolves. Yeah. Red Wolves is fine too.
Are there Red Wolves? Is that a thing?
Sure. There's brown wolves, black wolves, red wolves. Who cares?
Who cares?
Let's just say there isn't a standout on that list.
Right. I agree. I think Washington Football Team is stupid but unique and global. You know, that's what all the soccer teams do.
Sure.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So they won't leave it at that. I think it's too like generic, and they need like a secondary like.
It's not trademarkable.
Thing.
You can't trademark Washington Football Team.
Right.
You'll never get that registered with the
I'm pretty sure that's out.
I can also verify that Red Wolves do exist. It is a real thing, and they're actually endangered, I guess.
Okay, but do they have any sort of tie to the Washington, D.C. area?
They do. They actually, their habitat is the Washington Football Team's stadium. They actually hide sort of in the...
So it's actually a wildlife sanctuary.
It absolutely is. Like, I mean, the name is right in front of their freaking noses, but they refuse to buy into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Red Hogs comes from like in the 80s, the Washington's offensive line were known as the Hogs, but I don't know where the red part's coming from. And it's like
they just want it to be Redskins. That's the thing.
Sure.
It needs to be the same.
It's a callback to 40 years ago when the team was good,
right?
You know, for an extended period of time. Like, let's not make people think of that because we're not getting back there anymore.
Mm-hmm. So, a question for you: if you were to learn that the red wolf is only found in eastern North Carolina, at the Albemarle Peninsula of eastern North Carolina, would that change your opinion on the team being called the Red Wolves?
I don't like the name. I think it's a bad name.
So Red Wolves.
No, it wouldn't matter to me because there's no lakes in LA and there's no jazz in Utah and there's none of the.
Well, there's probably some jazz in Utah. I mean, somewhere.
It's not allowed. It's Utah. Like you can't have alcohol there. You can't.
Are there Hornets at Charlotte?
Right. I mean, probably. Right.
Is there Magic in Orlando?
I mean, there's the Magic Kingdom, so there is at least a Magic there.
But these are basketball teams. These are not NFL teams.
This is NFL. Right. NFL transcends.
Right. Now, I mean, for a time, there was no Oilers in Nashville. Nashville? No.
Right. I think other than
What's that team's name now?
I think other than a zoo
Titans.
setting, there are no Bengals in Cincinnati. They're not native
Right.
to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Right.
So
But sometimes you just want to be a badass tiger.
that is true.
Shouldn't you just be the Tigers then?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I mean-
They could have just been the Tigers.
I mean, are
So
there
what
any
we're saying
Cardinals
is-
in Phoenix? This is whatever.
And they're not even they shouldn't even be having the bird. I mean, they're named for Cardinal Red. That was their origin. They weren't even named after birds.
Right.
They just took
There's
that
no-
on later.
There's no Pirates in Las Vegas. Well,
Are there
you know what? They're
Buccaneers
probably-
in Tampa Bay, though? There have to be Buccaneers in
If
Tampa
there's-
Bay.
If there's Buccaneers anywhere, it's got to be Tampa Bay.
Right. Guys,
Sure.
if there's
Got to
no
be.
truth, if there's no truth to sports names, then why are we even here?
Well,
Yeah.
Tampa Bay is the most problematic of them all because the city is called Tampa. Tampa Bay is the water. The
And
stadium.
it's also as we know from R.I.P. Danny Green, it's Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's a
You
double.
need to get- It's double.
You'll find him on the high road. Calcutta Clipper comes swooping in from the north.
We spent an awful lot of time on this.
Wow. So, final verdict, Adam, what's your pick?
a Washington football team.
He's
would
sticking
be
with
my-
Washington football team. Jared, do
I
you
think
concur?
you've made a
won't be
strong
bad.
case for it.
I don't like it.
I don't
don't
like
hate
it.
it,
I
but
don't
I
like
don't
any
like
of the names that have been presented either. I don't. I think no matter what is picked, everyone will be disappointed.
Here's
Right.
my problem. The biggest problem I have with Red Wolves, as it's been presented, is it is a single word camel cased, not camel cased the whole way, but like capital R red,
Yeah.
no space, wolves.
Dumb.
I don't like that.
That's not good.
If it's that, I'm out. I'm
It's
going to
bad.
be a Browns fan or something.
Okay, perfect. I love it.
It's fair. That's a fair. It's
Well,
fair.
let's talk about the other problematic team in the NFL, Jared. That would be the Minnesota Vikings. We
Okay,
talked.
wait, here, real quickly.
Oh, holy,
Do
we're
you
going
guys
back.
do things ever happen in your guys' life where you're like, wow, maybe the whole world does revolve around me? Like it's,
every day.
Okay, so it's just very strange to me that I moved from a place. I moved from the Washington D.C. area where my chosen football team is this awful team run by a horrible person, and I move here, and then somehow our teams play each other year after year after year.
It's true.
Are they playing this year?
They're not playing this year.
There's
no.
no Scoper Bowl this year. Okay.
No,
No
thank
Scoper
God.
Bowl.
And then the most amazing thing happens. The quarterback from that team decides I don't want to play for this team anymore,
Yeah.
and he goes and plays here
Yeah.
where I've moved to.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then the thing that I hate the most for a long time. This is not a new thing. I don't know. I shouldn't say the most, but something I've hated a lot for a long time is this whole anti-vax movement. And then lo and behold, the guy's an anti-vaxxer.
Right.
I mean, I guess I knew that from when he was a big pusher of Amway stuff when he first came out of college. But
So, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. When the Vikings first pursued Kirk Cousins, I think you warned us. You're like, this guy is not great.
no,
know?
I don't know. I probably said
Yeah, I think
the same thing I always say about everything. Who cares?
Yeah, but no, I think you cared a little bit. You were just
Adam's
like,
not a
just
man of
wait.
strong opinions.
No.
Jared and I were like, well, he's the best that we could get at the time, and we think that there's going to be upside. But years later, I hate to say this, but you're right. This guy's a dog. He's a dog. Even if he's the best quarterback in the world, I dislike him so much right now. I can't even tell you. I've been talking to Jared about how his anti-vax belief, along with a lot of other key players, important people on the team that could have really positive influences on others, how they're all doing that, just really sours me on football, and it sours me on this team specifically. Jared, your opinion?
I don't know that it sours me on football overall. It definitely sours me on this team. And their terrible preseason performance certainly didn't help their case.
Right.
So I'm going into the season with almost no expectations for success. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't like our quarterback. I don't think he's as bad as you're sort of painting him as far as a player goes.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
But he isn't necessarily the kind of guy who has managed to lift this team, put them on his shoulders, and win a game when it counts.
I feel
He's
like
definitely
Adam,
failed in that regard.
He has,
but he's had some good games.
He has, and he's got some gaudy stats here and there. But I sort of feel like maybe this is just me projecting, but I feel like Adam probably said this is a guy that's never going to get the Vikings to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Sounds like something Adam would say. And then he said, "Who cares?" afterwards, just like that. Who cares?
Pretty much.
But
no, I think you're right.
He makes me want to puke.
I don't.
It's just it's hard when it's like. Am I right that football is like your guys' is like the sport that you like the most?
Yeah, I mean that's the only sport that I really pay attention.
I mean, other than curling, obviously.
Other than curling and soccer from time to time, and then I'm an Olympic expert when it comes on, and then I don't care about it after that.
It's like I don't understand fandom. Like I'm the same way. It's like. Why can't I just get into like a sport where people are good? Like the Minnesota United is like a team that like seems to like care about its community, care about human beings. They kick out Nazis, they shame Nazis. It's like I should like these guys, but I always come back to football, and then it's like. You just get like some weird like emotional attachment to your team, what fandom is, and then this guy comes in and he's like, no, I don't believe this stuff. It is what it is. Whatever. And you're just like, God, I hate this motherfucker so much.
That's exactly
and it's clear that a lot of people on his team don't like him.
You think that's true? But there's so many people that are key players that are also not vaccinated. Do you think they're buying into that same nonsense? Do you think he has influence on that?
They can dislike him and still be anti-vaxxers.
Wouldn't that be crazy that he has no sway over the anti-vaxxers? They're anti-vax for their own reasons, but they hate Kirk Cousins.
Here's the thing. All these players went to college. That doesn't mean they're smart. There's a lot of dumb football players who have get a lot of dumb information and say a lot of dumb things. So it doesn't surprise me that they may have arrived at anti-vaccine on their own. But, having QB1 not being in favor of it certainly doesn't help change their mind.
No.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. It's like the Ravens and the Vikings, I think, are the only two teams that have said their quarterbacks are on their non-vaccine list.
Are there other teams you think that are on that list that haven't admitted it?
I think at this point, everyone, I don't know how they're like the confirmation part's working. So I think it relies on the player saying, volunteering the information, which both Lamar Jackson and Kirk Cousins have done. And then I guess, confirming the other way.
Right.
But it's interesting because Cam Newton was, cut today.
Was he? Did he get cut?
Yep. Yeah. And Cam Newton, at least, I don't know if he was there. I think he at least was in the protocol, the contact tracing protocol. So he hadn't been able to practice recently. So I don't know if he was unvaccinated or not. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's interesting how much of that goes into, cuts are happening. Right. Today was like the cut down to 53-person man roster. I wonder how many of those cuts were like, well, this guy's not getting vaccinated and we can't take this risk.
100% it factored in. In fact, you've got Urban Meyer admitting vaccination status was a consideration in player cuts. Jacksonville Jaguars' new head coach, Urban Meyer, says that. And
unfortunately, if the Vikings did that, you would be cutting off how many important players? I mean, they couldn't do it anyway, but I mean,
no,
you've got 5 or 6 huge important players on this team that are unvaccinated.
But no, if you're cutting players down and you've got players on the bubble and you're like, well, they're kind of the same, but this guy isn't vaccinated. That's the guy who gets cut.
Yeah.
Now, Urban Meyer was dumb and talked about it and said it was a factor, which means now the NFLPA is opening an investigation into that. His comments, because you're not supposed to use vaccination status as a criteria.
Right.
But it obviously happens.
It has to. Yeah.
Of course,
it's like using injury history, right, as a at least partially determinate factor.
Right. You just don't admit that.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody on your team that may not be there when you need them.
He said the quiet part loud.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least this quiet part wasn't like racist. at least this was like, it's smart. It's smart for a team to be thinking that way.
Right. And I'm in favor of it, even if the players' organization isn't in favor of it.
I think they're crazy.
Of course, they shouldn't be in favor of it because it is personal choice. And I just disagree with personal choice. Whatever. I don't know.
Well, what happens when key players for the Vikings are out and they lose games? When it happens. Not if, when it happens.
Then they lose games and they miss the playoffs. And then your coaching staff gets fired.
Yeah. So thanks. Zim's like, thanks, dude.
And then a lot of those players will be gone because the Vikings will be rebuilding and they won't be able to afford those big salaries. So that's likely what will happen.
So the fun football dominoes, we're just getting ready to watch that first domino fall.
What you guys are saying is when both of our teams finish in last place in their divisions this year, you know what that means for next year.
Oh,
Scoper Bowl.
Scoper Bowl.
Scoper Bowl. Scoper Bowl.
Oh, it's
Scoper Bowl.
I think Washington will either match or do better than they did last year.
Wow.
Well,
7-9. Here comes 8-8.
Yeah, or 8-9.
Oh, right, 8-9. Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
What
17.
a weird year.
Yeah, it's all nuts. Well, I want to thank everyone for putting up with our football talk, but it's something we have to do every fall. The rest of the show, as far as I know, will be decidedly
fantasy football talk. Come on, Jared. Who you got? Who's your sleepers?
We are
for
doing
whatever
our
reason,
entire...
I picked Cam Newton in round 1. Big mistake on my part.
Jared's out. I picked an entire team of unvaccinated players because I appreciate their gusto.
Stance against big government.
I can't feel the team because they're all on the COVID list.
That's it. We're done.
But you know what? Those guys, they're not going to be the ones growing feathers mid-season.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
true.
That third eye growing out of your right nipple, not happening with these guys. Wow, I think that was Panama.
I hit the wrong button.
All right, everybody. We've got a good show. I know this doesn't prove it, but promise me the rest of the show is going to be great. What we're into, we're going to talk about things that are getting us through this pandemic time. I'm sure that each of us will have a great pick. More coming soon. That means pop culture rundown from Adam. Very, very exciting. And just loads of fun and comedy because that's what we're made of. So let's take a break. We'll be back with more of episode 304 and good times right after this.
It's that time again, folks. It's time for me to find my tab where my script is. There it is. Want to support the show? Hey, well-oiled machine over here, guys. This is what we want you to pay for on a regular basis, is this kind of just perfectly executed live podcasting. Patreon.com/The Scope Show is where you go. You can pledge as little as $1 per episode. You can set a monthly cap. You can cancel anytime. Whoa, don't cancel yet. There's more show to come. And we promised, Shane promised, I don't promise, Shane promised it was going to be so good. You want to stick around. Make sure you go to patreon.com/The Scope Show to get your regular pledge in now. Operators are standing by. There's only so many slots available. You don't want to miss out on this mega deal where you give us money and we give you a comedy show that's sometimes funny. All right. Patreon.com/The Scope Show for more information. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. We are back. Episode 304. The Scope. Jared.
I rehearsed that ad. Can you tell?
I love it. You're so good. Jared, Adam, Shane, we are back. We're bringing back another great Scope bit. I don't know if it's going to be funny, but it's definitely going to be entertaining. This time around, it's what we're into. We're going to just be talking about one pick a piece, everybody. No one's going to get too greedy. We're going to talk about one thing that is really floating our boat right now.
Shane, you came really close to doing a good Trump impression right there.
I was borderline
zeroing in on it with your one pick a piece, and
then I backed off.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need that. I mean, we'll get him back in a couple more years. It'll be fine. But until then, Trump-free zone, Jared. Jared, I'm throwing it over to you. You are going to kick off this bit. What are you into right now? Please tell us.
I'm going to go first, huh?
You're going to go first.
Well, this is a bit of a weird one. I wasn't sure what I was going to pick, if I was going to go for an entertainment property I was into, or maybe I'm into some sort of bird watching. I don't know. But it sort of occurred to me that the thing that I spend probably too much time watching these days is like retro computing YouTube channels.
Oh,
and these are like channels that deal primarily in computers of the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that we grew up with here in America. It could be stuff that wasn't available to us. It was more of a European thing. We're talking like Apple II. We're talking Amiga. We're talking Commodore computers like the VIC-20 and the 64. We're talking classic Macintoshes. We're talking DOS PCs, stuff like that. In the European front, you're looking at like the ZX Spectrum, the Acorn line of computers. I don't know why I'm into this stuff. Well, actually, I do kind of know why I'm into it, but
you're sad and lonely.
Well, no, it's just it's a weird area of nostalgia that I'm sort of tapping into, and it's sort of the unrequited love that I had as a child for the popular microcomputers you could get. Like we had Apple. You
never owned any of that stuff as a kid.
I never owned any of that as a young person, and I really, really wanted to. So, like, I have the great nostalgia for like the Apple II line of computers. We had them at school, but I always wanted one at home, and I was very jealous of the people who had them in their homes because they were kind of too expensive for my family to afford, so we never got one. But boy, did I want one! Oh boy, did I want one! I have distinct memories of going to like the Dayton's electronics section in Rosedale Mall. We'd been the lower level. It was like real dark. But they had a couple different Apple II, like an Apple IIe display, and then later on they had like an Apple IIc display. I wanted that Apple IIc so bad. I wanted it so bad. I had the brochures, and I would look through it, and I wanted one so bad.
And you never got it.
I never got one. Years later, like in high school, I got an Amiga 500, which I think was a lot of fun. That was the first computer that I really owned myself. Played a lot of games on that, did some creative work on that. And then years later, I got my first Macintosh clone. Those are my first computers I actually owned myself. But like, I don't know, it's just fun to watch these channels. They go like, they'll do kind of repairs and restorations. I know, Shane, there's that one channel you like to watch where it's the
8-bit guy, right?
But he just like, the guy who like rebuilds things.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, there's a few of those channels I like.
Yeah. So they'll go through all these repairs and restorations of these class computers where they'll patch them up, they'll clean them up, they'll get them working again. Sometimes they'll do like big mods and upgrades on these computers. So the fun thing about retro computers now is that you can afford all the great upgrades that you couldn't way back then. So you could buy a classic Macintosh and beef it up with all their memory and all the accelerators and hard drives and stuff like that you could never have before. Those are fun to see. You know, you could take an old CRT and get it working again. I would never do any of this. I'd have no interest in actually buying this equipment myself and owning it and playing with it. But I have kind of a deep fascination with watching other people do it. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time. Some channels that I will recommend to people if this is the sort of thing you're into. There's a guy out of Dallas, Texas, goes by the 8-bit guy. So he does a lot of Commodore and Apple stuff. There's a guy out in Portland, Oregon, who has a channel called Adrian's Digital Basement. Has the breadth of early DOS PCs, Apple stuff, a lot of Commodore, VIC-20 and 64 stuff. Guy in California who's originally from the UK, called Retro Recipes, is very much kind of Commodore, Amiga, and Commodore 64 stuff. Channel called Action Retro, which is a lot of kind of 90s and late 80s and early 90s Macintosh stuff. Right now he's actually doing a series on upgrading a power computing clone. I don't know if you remember those, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 90s when they did clone computers.
Yep.
I owned a power computing. The company we worked at, Core Marketing, had some power computing and some UMax Macintosh clones. So it just sort of like rekindles those memories of the things that I worked on or the things that I wanted to have in my life. And another channel that I find really interesting, and this is sort of getting into the UK European side of things and other kind of oddities, is it used to go by the name Retro Man Cave, but he's recently rebranded it as RMC The Cave to kind of be more inclusive. It's this guy in the UK who covers all of the UK stuff, video game consoles of the era. So they have like Mega Drive and Dreamcast, but also all the gaming PCs of the era. I have a clip that I'm going to play of that. Here it is.
Hello Cave Dwellers, it's pickups and donations unboxing time, and just look at this pile. We have bumper episode for you today in which to explore your outrageous generosity and kindness, which appears to include the actual Ark of the Covenant. Prepare to have your faces melted with nearly an hour, I know it's crazy, nearly an hour of retro unboxings. Thank you, and thank you again for what is about to happen. I truly am the kid who gets to enjoy Christmas every single month, but the best part is that I get to share it with you. And let's do that right now, starting with this big old box which has arrived all the way from Switzerland.
Open it up. I believe his name is Neil. His channel is interesting because he does all the retro computer like restorations and sort of multi-part series diving into a particular computer and why it was popular and how it came to be and stuff like that. He's done like weird Eastern Bloc computers and stuff like that too. But another big component of his channel in the last 6 to 9 months has been his working on a retro computer museum. And he's got a new space above I believe it's an old mill of some sort, where he's got the top floor that he's leased out. And he's just going through this whole thing where he's building out all of these displays where you have all of these different retro computers that you can go and play games on. There's a whole handheld consoles area where you can grab like Game Boys and all these other consoles you can play with. Tons of old magazines of the era. It's just been fascinating to just watch this whole space come together, because it's not only not just the computer stuff, but it's also just the construction of the space. So they're like building these great like kind of reclaimed wood walls and all these great tables and everything like that. I don't know. And plus he's got this very calming presence in his voice, which is kind of fun to watch in these trying times. So anyway, that's what I've been into, not exclusively, but I have spent an awful lot of time watching these channels on YouTube, and sort of just getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, sort of seeing a different side of technology that I participated in peripherally in my childhood, and seeing all the depth that was available to people there.
I watch the 8-bit guy a lot. I actually appreciate a lot of what he does. There's some things that's just over my head and I don't care about, but I'm totally with you in terms of that. Sort of what you're going through, I kind of call it like the alternate nostalgia. We look back at our lives and we know pretty well sort of what we went through as kids, but as I've gotten older, like I start to look at things that I didn't experience, but maybe would have or could have in a different life. And I think that's sort of what you're doing right here. Like, all this computer stuff, I had a great interest in it. I was on the edge of it. But
or now, experienced some of it.
Yeah, but now you can really experience it fully through the eyes of people that are experts, which I think is really interesting.
Right. There's this whole area side of it now that with people building brand modern modifications for these computers, so you can like accelerate them using brand new boards that people have developed, or that you can get pristine HDMI video out of a retro computer using a Raspberry Pi, or people who are programming games still for all these old computers. It's just crazy what's going on.
Yeah, and it's amazing how you can put that out there, put it on a channel, and make it interesting.
Yep.
And hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will watch it. So that's pretty cool.
They'll send you their old crap so that you can you can restore it or
you can
put
do it
on
yourself.
Display. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, fantastic pick, Jared. I think I'm going to go next here. Through the pandemic, I have the one thing that I have digested the most has been podcasts, way more than music for whatever. I mean, I still listen to a lot of music, but as I'm getting out and walking and jogging and doing that sort of thing, I like to listen to people talk. And so I'm picking a podcast this time around. And the one thing I've sort of noticed and realized about what I like about podcasts are well scripted, informational, entertaining, and usually not too long podcasts, which essentially is completely opposite of what we've been doing for 10 years. So crazy. I found one called The Hit Parade, and I've talked about this podcast with a lot of people, and especially my friends that are into music and music history. This is like my all-time favorite podcast, or at least right now it is. I'll read the kind of the Hit Parade's intro text that they have at their website, and it goes as following. Chris Molanphy, a pop chart analyst and author of Slate's Why Is This Song Number One series, tells tales from a half-century of chart history. Through storytelling, trivia, and song snippets, Chris dissects how the song you love or hate dominated the airwaves, made its way to the top of the charts, and shaped your memories forever. And a little comment about this podcast, somebody gave it 5 stars and said, it's an excellent podcast that tells the stories of popular music's biggest stars through their runs up and down the Billboard charts. It's a unique approach that's totally engaging, no matter what your preference may be for the artist being featured. So it's essentially like a historical look at pop music trends or a specific artist or a group of artists, and Chris Molanphy tells that tale through looking at the Billboard chart. So there are certain things that you may think is reality about Bruce Springsteen, but his chart analysis and the stories that he tells about it actually shows you a little bit different story, or how his contemporaries or people that looked up to him, how they sort of performed on the charts. It's really interesting. And so here's just a list of some of the recent shows that Chris has done. The most recent 2-parter is The Real History of Yacht Rock. Yacht rock is this term that feels like it's been around forever, but it really has only been around since the early 2000s. And he kind of tells the story of where that came from and artists that would be considered yacht rockers. Recently, he did one about the story of Milli Vanilli and other fake artists, and just their history through time, and how those sort of things pop up, and how Milli Vanilli really wasn't like a unique thing. There were other artists that were like that. Another good one was the Christmas 1992 battle between Michael Jackson's Dangerous and Nirvana's Nevermind. How those 2 albums competed on the charts. Really interesting. And another one that I really liked was something called the AC/DC rule. And what is that exactly, Jared? Let's let Chris tell us what the AC/DC rule is. There we go. So yeah, he'll follow and find chart trends that you wouldn't necessarily know. Another really good 2-parter was his series on what actually is a one-hit wonder, and he lays out some very specific rules about what he considers to be one-hit wonders and what aren't. So very, very interesting. I love this podcast because it does sort of tie into like crap from the past. We've had Ron Gerber on our show, so there's some similar grounds there, but this is a little bit more academic.
Ron Boogie Monster Gerber.
I love the fact that it's interesting topics that don't always intersect with the music history that I know well. So like he did one on the history of like modern country music and how it became a stalwart of pop charts in the late 70s and early 80s, and then sort of how it died out and what it turned into a little later on with like Garth Brooks and the Judds and
that's similar ground to what was covered in the This Is Pop series on Netflix. There's a country music episode.
Yeah, probably.
You haven't watched that yet, have you?
I haven't watched it. And like I said, this show it's very well written and very well produced. And even though his voice is kind of nerdy, he does a really, really good job of digging into pop music trends and explaining things that I didn't know. So again, Chris Molanphy's The Hit Parade. You have to check this out if you listen to any podcasts. He's been doing it for a number of years, and you'll be able to find topics you like the whole episode about Weird Al Yankovic, Jared, which I think you would just really get into. And then there's other parts that, hey, you never thought you'd listen to, but you're going to find out about the history of rap or something like that. So The Hit Parade, check it out. Adam, you're the cleanup hitter. Let's do it.
All right. I don't think mine's going to be nearly as clean or overly accepted as either one of yours is. But mine is also a podcast. I'd say in quarantine, or we'll just say the last year and a half, I've spent time doing almost 2 things exclusively. That's watching people stream X-Wing and
planning for the days when you could play.
Got one night at a tournament in White Bear Lake. during those 4 weeks where things were fine, and that was it. But there's a good online community now and a good software for playing it online, so it's okay. So doing that and listening to one specific podcast. Now, I subscribe to a lot of podcasts, but in the last 18 months, I've spent almost no time listening to any of them, except one podcast in particular. So that podcast I came to from Comedy Bang Bang, which is a comedy podcast, improv podcast, and one of the characters on there, the character's name is Gino Lombardo. He is played by a comedian named John Gabris, who you wouldn't know from anything else. But I really liked him on that podcast, so I followed him to a couple other podcasts that he does, including his own, just where he mostly talks about smoking weed a lot. And then came to this podcast that I have been spending all this time listening to, and it's called Action Boyz with a Z. It's a Patreon-only podcast. So you have to pay money.
Wow.
There's, I think they have like 10 free episodes to check it out. But the other two guys on there are also two other UCB comedians that are on other podcasts that I'd heard before. So it's like, I'll check this out. $5 for a month to listen to some guys talk about action movies. I can deal with it. And what I uncovered was a podcast that makes me laugh nonstop. It is, I don't think it is a particularly highbrow level of comedy, and I don't think it is a particularly unique film analysis podcast in any sense of the word. But there's something about these three guys talking about mostly action movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That is, there's a bit of nostalgia there for, movies I have seen. But they talk about plenty of movies that I have never seen and have no intention of seeing, that I'll still listen to the episodes, and they're great. They just did the Mario Van Peebles 1996 movie Solo, which I probably saw on HBO, when I was a teenager, but I don't remember any of it.
Solo 2 is going to be an HBO Max movie, actually, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they cover the gamut, and what is an action movie, kind of, is a little broad. They did Willow 1 week, it's Matt Mardigan has a sword, I guess. It's not really an action movie, but whatever.
Yeah. Close enough.
Action. Come on.
Yeah, sure. Willow does this thing with his wand,
his little wand,
turns the old lady into a goat on accident and stuff. But this is the only podcast I've ever done this with. I used to think people that did this were insane, but I went back to the beginning of their feed, and am listening to all of the episodes from the beginning.
You're a super fan now.
Yes.
You think that's insane to do? Man, that's my favorite part about coming to a podcast late, is being able to go back.
I've never understood that impulse. Now, most of the podcasts that I listen to, other than this one, are the video game podcasts that I listen to. It's the stuff they're talking about is what's going on now.
Yeah. If it's timely information, that's a different story.
Yeah. And I think most of that stuff is, but I guess, I don't know. I'm looking at my list of podcasts right now, and plenty of them are not that, but that's still I guess with Reply All, I did that to an extent. I went back and listened to some old Reply All. Problematic podcast.
Even though they have one of the best episodes ever of any podcast ever.
Yeah. So the clip you're going to hear, I have no idea if this translates. I'm sure it doesn't, or I'm guessing it doesn't. But this is them talking about a part of Rocky 3.
The Mr. T Rocky, correct?
The Mr. T Rocky. You'll hear Mr. T for a brief moment. This clip, this bit that they do, and the clip's too long. We cut it off whenever you guys feel like.
I was going to ask. It's
18 minutes long. It's the actual podcast.
Yeah. The other thing about this podcast that I find so endearing is the movies they talk about. They're, action movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So it's like usually they're 100-minute long, movies. They haven't had a podcast that go under 2.5 hours.
So the podcast is longer than the movie they're talking about.
Much longer than the movie. Sometimes it's like double the length of the movie. But okay, so this bit is, they're talking. You'll hear the introduction from Mr. T. When I first listened to this episode, it was a few months ago. I think I was making guacamole while listening to it. And Mandy had to come upstairs to make sure I was okay because I was laugh crying so much. Having a hard time breathing. I cried into the guacamole that I was making. It was
the best guacamole Mandy's ever had.
Yeah.
Tears of joy.
So when I went to get this clip, because I was like, well, this is the clip I have to use. So I listened to it and I tried to trim it a little bit here and there. I started laughing so hard again. And as soon as I was like, okay, well, I have to do this. I'm like, no one's going to laugh at this. So I'm going to look at you guys. You might be completely stone-faced, and that's totally fine. Don't worry about the problematic voices. They talk about what they're doing afterwards, and it's okay to laugh at if you find it funny. But here you go.
Stone-faced.
Maybe you'd like to see a real man. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I tell you what, bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man. You want it, you get it!
I love that he drops that he has an apartment.
Yeah, I know. It makes it so funny.
Lang's not a homeowner?
It fits in with the fucking theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Rocky's lost his masculinity. He can't get it up anymore, basically.
Right. Rocky's
impotent in this movie.
Yeah. And then also on top of it,
Fuck.
Why don't you come over to my apartment tonight? I'll show you a real man.
So Mick takes off.
Make sure you buzz 4H because my buzz is broken.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you better throw something like a pebble at the window, and then I'll come down and let you in because the buzzer don't work.
And if you got a sweater or a long sleeve or something, you better bring it because they shut the heat off.
Don't mention I have a cat because I didn't pay the pet deposit. I don't want anybody knowing that I got a cat in there. It's a $50 pet deposit. And he'll get out if you don't shut the door real fast like. You gotta shut the door faster than a cat.
So come back to my house. Don't let my cat out. Come to my apartment, and I'll show you who a real man is. Just keep an eye on the cat.
I'll show you what a real man is when you come to my apartment. But
don't flush the toilet while someone's in the shower.
My cat Snickers is domesticated. He ain't trained to be outside, so you gotta let him inside. And he ain't had his last round of shots yet, so he get out there and get a wee. Try not to wake up my roommate. He works at night, so he sleep all day.
And I can't afford to lose this apartment. It's $800 rent control.
And it's his name on the lease.
He signs for my packages when they come.
Don't be fooled. When you see all the VHS tapes we have, those are mostly my roommates, so you cannot borrow them. So but we proudly display them like they're both of ours.
A real man, but we gotta do it all quiet like. He gonna be sleeping. He a real man when I wake him up. And you know I want to fuck Noisy. I want to fuck you, Noisy woman, but I can't.
It's already 2 strikes against me. He said the 3rd strike, and I'm out. I signed that contract. I made a mistake. I didn't preview the contract.
That's bullshit, because I'm the one cleaning up.
And don't watch that TV because I made a big stink about not paying for half of the cable bill. So I told him I don't watch TV. I'm trading, so you can't watch it either.
He's stealing the cable.
I will say I don't hate him, but I pity the roommate.
How many Mr. T's are there?
A lot of Mr. T's.
I mean, that's one where they're all. You can do a Mr. T impression, I guess, decently well. So all 3 of them are pretty good with that. Yeah, it's that is. I don't know if anyone's not familiar with Rocky 3. That is the part where they. Sylvester Stallone is lifting from real life, where Sugar Ray Leonard, when he was fighting, I forget who now, back in the early 80s. Anyway, whoever Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting.
I think our audience knows Sugar Ray Leonard's
of course.
Come on, it's Sugar Ray Leonard.
He basically at their press conference implied that he was gonna fuck Sugar Ray Leonard's wife, and Sugar Ray did not take too kindly to that. So basically, Sylvester Stallone in the Rocky 3 script just lifted that, and Clubber Lang, Mr. T, is let's say flirting with Adrian.
Sure, a gentle flirt.
Yeah. And they took it from there. It's I love this show, and I'm so happy that I'm only there weekly, and I just crossed July 1st, 2019.
Oh,
so I still have a long way to go to get up to where we are now.
Do you listen to old shows and then you automatically watch or listen to the new show right away?
The only new ones I'm listening to are they do so they have 2 tiers of Patreon. At a certain point, I upgraded to the higher end. So they have one where it's like a premium or whatever only, where they watch a non-action movie and talk about it, but then also just kind of like talk about other things they're watching. They talk about shows or movies that they've gone on auditions for and stuff like that. And those are usually like weird movies, Sleepless in Seattle, not weird, but like not action.
That's
movies.
A crazy
so
one.
like Sleepless in Seattle and stuff like that. They have like really good recommendations on things I've never heard of, books or movies. They all or 2 of them are film majors, so they have just like an interesting way to speak about certain movies. They have just interesting takes on like how you wind up with Oscar-winning cinematographers doing awful movies in the 80s because there were literally 35 camera crews in the whole world that could even like make a movie into the late 70s. So just interesting stories that they tell also, and yeah, just great.
So Adam's into Action Boyz.
With a Z.
I'm
Action
into the
Boyz.
Hit Parade, and Jared is into retro computing YouTube channels.
yes. It's very specific.
Seems right on brand for all of us, to be honest with you. Right on brand.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, everyone. Let's take a quick break. Catch your breath. Adam will come back and tell us what's happening in the world of pop culture right after this.
Look out for the laser! It's the scope. Under the scope.
Yes, indeed, under the scope. And that always leads to what? Coming soon.
I like how we took a break by not actually going anywhere. We just,
It's all illusion.
I
what
know.
it is. It's the theater of illusion that we have mastered over the many years of creating this show.
Mm-hmm.
Adam?
It's true.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. Movies. Let's see. We've got The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Yes.
That's the Tammy Faye and James Baker movie starring Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield. The second best Spider-Man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Michael Showalter is the director of this. So.
It looks very interesting.
Yes. I
have
agree.
not seen anything about this.
Yeah. There was a trailer that was released not too long ago. You should check it out.
Yep. And then Clint Eastwood has a movie also.
Yeah.
Cry Macho.
What's he angry about now?
I had it crying too macho-ly. So maybe it's about toxic masculinity. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's ready to tackle that.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Of all guys, yeah. Next week, there's The Guilty, which is a Antoine Fuqua movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know what it's about, but I saw the people involved, so I was like, okay, maybe that's big. And Dear Evan Hansen comes out too, which I am looking forward to. Still very confused on why the internet got so mad about Ben Platt playing Evan Hansen. Because he's too old.
Did he play it in the stage production?
Right. I mean, he created the character. I mean, he
can do what he wants to.
Right. He is 27. So yes, that is older than the 16 or 17-year-old titular character, but that's not unheard of. That's pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
This is maybe just the hot take parade stuff, but yeah, people were like upset about it.
Hot take
I don't
parade.
get it. Okay. Albums. Now, Wikipedia only listed this and didn't have like a thing I could click on for the album, but there's a Third Eye Blind album coming out.
Oh, well.
Wow.
They still around? Is that like a known thing? Oh, not only that, there's a Candlebox album coming out.
Okay.
Oh, you buried the lead.
I was a big Candlebox guy back in the day.
We've also got an album from Lil Nas X and Angels and Airwaves.
Oh, yeah.
The Rancid guys.
No, Angels and Airwaves. Isn't that
That's
one of the dudes from
Blink 182.
It's Blink 182, but it's also
Rancid.
What's his face? Rancid, yeah.
Is
Right?
it?
Here.
I don't know. It's very important.
No. Oh. Am I wrong about this? Maybe I guess I am.
I mean, you could be right. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess.
It's not that important.
All right. I take my headphones off for 1 second and the show goes off the rails.
Yeah, really.
You got to keep us in line, Shane. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. I take it all back. Weird. I thought that what's his face was not
COVID brain. That's what it
yeah,
is.
it's happening. It's all done. Oh well.
What else?
Cool.
We
Sure.
got?
Yeah, the Blink 182. Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Oh yeah, video games. We've got Pokemon Unite.
Oh.
It's a mobile game, so I assume that it's a Pokemon mobile game you guys are in.
No.
No.
Okay.
Only Pokemon Go. That's it.
Okay. My neighbors across the street, it's like maybe early 20-year-olds. The two girls that live there, they go on Pokemon Go walks. So that's how Mandy and I knew it was still a thing.
Yeah, people still do it.
Our across the street neighbors.
Shane, how far along are you with Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I'm totally caught up.
Oh, so then there was recently a Pokemon Go joke when they go to the cabin, but there's no internet, and Jake Peralta's mad because it's community weekend and he can't play Pokemon.
I laughed because it was true. It was true.
Yes.
Remember when Hillary said Pokemon go to the polls?
Yeah.
And then she lost?
And then Trump came and...
Yeah. Look where we are now. Also, we've got Deathloop. Deathloop is, I think, a PS5 exclusive.
Okay.
It's like a first-person shooter with a time mechanic sort of thing, and early looks sound promising. And Diablo 2 Resurrected. They are remastering, I guess, Diablo 2. If you guys were
beautiful
Diablo 2 addicts in your college years or whenever that came out,
probably played it for a total of 10 minutes.
There you go.
I'm not a true gamer, I guess.
You're a hard sell, Shane. Jeez.
All I know is, Adam, in the upcoming shows that we'll be doing, a lot of video games will be hitting soon.
Is that true?
Far Cry coming?
Come on.
We're done with 17? Far Cry 17?
I'm not done with that. Love it.
It's got that guy in it. You know,
guy from Breaking Bad.
Guy.
Yep.
Giancarlo.
I like Giancarlo.
He's in it. He's the star of the game.
Also from The Mandalorian.
He is. Jared,
ever heard of that little show called The Mandalorian?
I'm looking at what's coming out. I guess I'm through September. I don't see a lot.
I think October is when things really start to hit.
Okay.
Well, they got all these games coming out for the new consoles that you still can't get, right?
Yeah.
I've got a PS5. I need games for it.
Just the other day, I got an invite from the Treasure Truck via Amazon to get a PlayStation 5. So I could have gotten another one, actually.
Wow.
The rich get richer.
Rich get richer. That's the story of my life.
You know, I did play through Horizon Zero Dawn.
Love it.
Again, they released a 60 FPS patch for it. I'm telling you, any game that gets that treatment, it feels so much better. I never understood that there was a difference, but it just feels smooth.
That's a game that I got maybe a quarter of the way into, and then I stopped playing my PS4, and now I've forgotten how to play that game.
Oh,
and so if I go back to it, I'm going to have to start over, which I don't want to do.
It's so good. Such a good game.
I've started like Breath of the Wild like 4 times already, and I don't stay with it, and then I forget how to play it.
It's because your weapons break, and you're like, this is a dumb mechanic.
Yeah,
I never want to play
Why are we doing this? Why is my sword snapping all the time? That's what she said.
Is that a thing?
It is a thing.
Okay.
All right. Good job, Adam. Let's wrap it up and finish the show.
Under the scope.
Gerard, take it. Oh, he's really thinking.
I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
Thinking of a number from 1 to 82. If you know the number, email us at comments@thescopeshow.com or call the voicemail line at 612-21-SCOPE. That is 612-217-2673. I want to know if you know the number that I picked just now in my head.
We know it.
You can also reach out, Facebook or Twitter. Those links are on our website at thescopeshow.com. And if you want to support the show, as I said before, this content isn't free, except when it is. But if you wanted to make it not free, you have that option. Patreon.com/thescopeshow. That is the place to go to make it not free. I know some people just have extra money lying around. The pandemic has treated you well. Your cost of living is way down because you're working from home. You got extra money to spend. Send it our way. We'll take that money and we will be thankful for it. Patreon.com/thescopeshow. Or if you just want to buy some stuff, you just want to spend that extra money on goods, you can do that at Amazon, but you can go through our link and through the magical transitive property, I can't say what will happen, but you've done affiliate links before. Scopeshow.com/Amazon is that link. Click on it, make your purchase, be happy. It'll get there. It used to be 2 days. Sometimes it's 3 or 4. They kind of fudge the numbers now. I don't know. I don't like it either. Okay. I don't like it either. I pay for Prime and I don't get my stuff right away. But sometimes I have the option of getting stuff delivered between 5 and 8 a.m. I don't understand that mechanic. I don't need it that early, but it's an option that I'm seeing. Maybe you are too. Maybe you're going to click that link and you're going to get that early morning delivery and you're going to be a happy person. Shane, back to you.
I got a second cat.
You got a second cat. It's my new friend, Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. Cream rises to the top.
Miss Elizabeth does not like to be touched by people
She
for the most part. But the other day I was over at Shane's house. I think we were watching preseason football.
I think she felt bad for us
She
because
felt
the Vikings
bad
were
for us
doing
because the
bad.
Vikings were terrible. And she just decided that she was going to jump up on the chair that I was sitting on and let me touch her.
It was such a privilege.
I got to touch the side of her face. It was brief. It was fleeting, but it was magical.
Yes.
Has not been repeated. Singular moment.
She came and visited you on the next game, but she did not jump up on the chair. She looked at you.
She just looked at me
From
with disdain.
afar.
She said, "You had your one.
Yep.
Don't think it's going to happen again."
And then she clicked on the affiliate link and actually supported our show.
She did. What did she buy? You had it probably delivered to your house. What did she get?
She bought one of those pet food dishes that makes it more of a challenge to get the food. Because she likes to have fun, like digging through the crevices.
She doesn't seem like a cat that wants things easy. She wants to work for her.
She's very difficult. And she also bought some aloe vera. I don't know why. That's what she bought.
You gotta stay moisturized.
Gotta stay moisturized.
Maybe too much time in the sun. I don't know. I don't know her life.
These riffs are gold. Why are we not saying what we're into is our own show? I do not know.
Adam just sits there staring at us like, I just want to go away now.
Please,
you
I'm
guys
tired.
keep talking. You just keep vamping.
We're vamping.
We're moments away from closing out this episode and shutting things down for the night. So Adam can go then watch his X-Wing streams on Twitch or listen to more of the Action Boyz with a Z. And we just keep talking, keeping him, denying him this pleasure. He's over there looking like Pierce Brosnan.
Goldfinger.
Trying to sell his
GoldenEye.
$100 million mansion. Can't do it. Nobody will buy it. He's taking it off the market. We're just talking.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he uses that space heater in the back?
Only in the winter.
That
Only
radiant
in the
heater
winter.
back there. I got one of those. Those things take a while to heat up, but
Radiated
they are
heat.
efficient. They do a good
Radiated
job.
heat.
What's in the baskets? Is that crafting supplies?
Up here?
Yeah.
I'm using my cursor. These?
Yeah, those baskets.
No, they're like office supplies.
Oh, okay.
This
So,
room
like-
before pandemic was Mandy's office.
Oh.
And then you took it over.
Then it was Mandy and Adam's office. And then Mandy said, I'm gonna go work in the main room in the basement. I can't deal with this anymore. So
Sounds about right.
Sorry.
How long did that last? The co-location, how long did that last?
5 months.
That's okay.
It's a good run.
Longer than expected.
It's a good run.
All right.
Just like this show. Some might say that's a little long. 5 months would have been perfect, but here we are.
I mean, between
We said all we needed
episodes,
to.
Yeah,
5
we've
months
said
is
it all.
perfect.
Well, I suppose, Jared, this experiment has run its course. The two of you, thanks for showing up. We'll do more shows soon, I promise. Until then, bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope Faithful. Days shall pass as if they were but a moment. And Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying, Das Vidania. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.